We told you earlier about the latest on the Democratic presidential contenders, and we also talked about the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is one of the people behind the effort to keep that fund going, and she's also expected to be part of the field in the 2020 presidential race. Senator Gillibrand joins us tonight. Senator, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Great to be here.
Serious problem, obviously, the 9/11 fund. How fast is it running out of money, and what does that mean to both the survivors and the first responders?
Well, the truth is, next week, people who are supposed to be getting compensation are actually going to have their compensation cut. They might only get 50% of what they're supposed to get, or 30% of what they're supposed to get. And it's a serious problem because these families are desperate. Their primary wage earner it may have died or is dying. They need compensation. And these are our first responders. These are the ones who raced up the towers on 9/11 when everyone else was coming down. And the truth is, more firefighters have died since 9/11 than on 9/11. And so we have to stand by them in their greatest time of need. And that's why we need to make the Victims Compensation Fund permanent. And that's what this bill is about. So we're trying to make sure there is not only bipartisan support, but to really invite President Trump to get behind this bill as a measure of his administration and what he believes in, as well as asking Mitch McConnell to let us vote on it. These bills have been unanimous over the last 10 years that we've been working on this. These kinds of measures aren't about Democrats or Republicans. It's about who we are as Americans, that we will stand by our first responders in their gravest time of need.
So the president is a New York guy, born and bred. Where is he on this?
Well, we are asking him to support the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund, making it permanent. We need his support, and
he hasn't taken a position yet?
No, he hasn't. But, you know, his Department of Justice has been meting out these awards very efficiently and effectively. And that's why we are now running out. And to cut this compensation by 50% or up to 70% of cuts, it's unacceptable. It's not what the compensation fund was designed to do. And for these families, I met with families today. And when you've lost your husband, who perhaps is your primary wage earner in your family, and you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids, you can't actually make ends meet. And so the concern and the worry and the fear that these families are facing is real. The saddest thing about today is the people who weren't there. I remember a firefighter named Ray Pfeiffer. When he first came to Washington, he walked door to door, talked to every senator. The next time he came, he had to be with a cane. The last time he came, he was in a wheelchair. And on the last thing he wanted to do on his bucket list was visit Arlington to pay his respects to fallen heroes. And he's not here today. So that's really what this is about. These are the men who did the extraordinary, heroic thing.
I want to pick up on that because it's a bipartisan effort.
Yes,
you in the Senate, you and Cory Gardner. There are Republicans and Democrats in the House. You had Jon Stewart here today.
Yeah.
You had some of the first responders, some of the survivors of 9/11. And I guess what surprises me is that this is such a hard push. You would think
it shouldn't be a hard push.
Well, so that's my question. Is there any opposition to this?
Well, hopefully there'll be none. So that's why we are inviting President Trump to support this bill. That is why we are hoping that Senator McConnell will put this bill on the floor. Every time we've had a vote on this before, it's been unanimous. It's the thing that brings us together.
So why are you worried that that won't happen again?
Because we cannot ask them to come back again. Every time we've done this, they've said, okay, we'll do it for 5 years. We'll do it for a short term. This needs to be the final ask of these first responders, of these community members. Today, we had a woman who was 17 years old, a student on 9/11. And not only did the government tell them the air was clean, she went back to school right away, breathing in the same toxins that our first responders are. And now her classmates and that community, they're being diagnosed with horrible cancers. So it should be a national call to action. This is something that brings us together. We believe in our first responders. We believe in that sacrifice they give. And in this one moment of time when they actually need us, we should stand by them. So I'm inviting both the president and Senator McConnell to do the right thing and understand the sense of urgency, because if next week you only get 50% or 70%, you're cut by that much, and you only get a third of what you're supposed to get, it's not good enough. It's not enough for families to survive.
You talk about bringing everybody together. Something that is going to test the divide is going to be the 2020 presidential campaign.
Yes.
You're potentially a candidate. You formed an exploratory committee. You're supporting some big ideas, which would also be big programs, the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and we've got a whole list of things that you've supported here, which by every estimate would cost trillions of dollars. How do you deal with the question? They're lovely ideas, they're just too expensive, and do you fear leaving an opening for President Trump to say, these guys are out of touch, they're just going to tax and spend your money, they're socialists? Let's take one idea. We don't have time to go through them all, but let's just take what the Green New Deal is. Global climate change, severe weather, is the greatest threat to humanity we have. Scientists have just reached the conclusion that it's happening far quicker than we know. And what New Yorkers know, and what people all across this country know, is when severe weather hits, people die. It destroys communities. Did you see Staten Island after 9/11? Communities destroyed, homes destroyed, business everybody
destroyed,
understands. Well, not everybody agrees on that.
All the families who
But what about the trillions of dollars?
But let's talk about it first, just a second. So when John F. Kennedy was president, he said, let's put a man on the moon in the next 10 years, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. It will be a measure of our innovation, our entrepreneurialism, our excellence. Why not say to the American people, global climate change is not only real, but the urgency of this moment requires a call to action to all of America's engineers, all of our entrepreneurs, all of our innovators, to say, let's solve the problem together. Let's, over the next 10 years, do 3 things. And it's really only 3 things, all of which are bipartisan. The first thing is invest in our green energies, wind, solar, geothermal, hydropower, nuclear, biofuels. We were the inventors of solar panels.
All right, I got to get to one more question.
We were the inventors
so
of
that's
solar
one.
Listen, we were the inventors of solar panels and wind. We let that manufacturing go to China because we didn't guarantee the tax benefits to make it work here. So why not make a commitment, not only to these new energies, but to the job training? Second, infrastructure. Everyone in America, all your viewers want more infrastructure. We believe we should rebuild America so it's more efficient, more mass transit, more high-speed rail. And last, clean air and clean water. All of us agree, no child should have to drink water out of a faucet that's tainted. That's what it is.
I got to ask you one more question.
It's an ambition for the future that we should all get behind.
One of your Democratic opponents, if you get into the race, Senator Elizabeth Warren, announced today that she's not going to hold any big fundraisers with high ticket prices to get in. She tweeted this. Let's put it up on the screen. On our campaign, there'll be no event you'll be excluded from because you can't afford it. Now, you're a top executive for Pfizer is holding a big fundraiser for you at the end of March. Tickets $1,000 to $2,700. Is Warren right that access to candidates is for sale?
No, but I think you do need to get money out of politics. The most important thing we have to do is upend the way our democracy functions. Today, the wealthiest, most powerful lobbyists and special interest groups get to write bills in the dead of night. So when we're passing...
Okay, but answer my one question directly.
Let me finish.
$2,700.
Let me finish. I got you. I got your point. I'm going to get to it. So when you write a bill in Medicare Part D and say, Medicare can't buy in bulk and get the cheapest prices for drugs, that's just a sweetheart deal for the drug companies so that they can charge you.
This is a drug executive who's holding this meeting.
And who's a dear friend who I've known for years and years, who believes in my gay rights platform and believes in women's rights and women's equality.
But what about $2,700 tickets?
Let me finish. So what's wrong with Washington is there's so much corruption, so much greed. We can't actually pass common sense gun reform in this country, not because the American people aren't behind it, because they are, but because the NRA is more worried about gun sales than they are about the well-being of our kids. So what's really wrong with Washington is corruption and greed. So for me, yes, just let me finish. It's part of the big discussion. So for me, that's why I'm banning federal lobbyist money. It's why I'm banning super PAC money. It's why I'm banning, no, I'm not having an individual super PAC, and why I'm banning corporate PAC checks. That is the first step to making sure that the moneyed interests, the powerful, the elite of the elite, don't have unbelievable influence over Washington. When the Koch brothers decide...
Just answer, though, $2,700 tickets. Are you going to go ahead and have the fundraiser or not?
Of course, I'm going to ask Americans all across this country to support my campaign. But taking away the influence that corporate PAC checks have, the fact that federal lobbyists get to control everything and write bills in the dead of night.
And you don't see a contradiction there?
I don't, because at the end of the day, people are going to support our campaigns because they believe in us. They believe that I will fight for women's reproductive freedom, that I'll believe they will fight for LGBTQ equality, that I won't demonize people across this country. This country has always been great because we care about one another. We believe in the golden rule. We believe that you should treat others the way you want to be treated, that we in fact should care care about the least among us. And so what we need to do is restore the power of this democracy to the hands of the people, not the special interests.
May I make a suggestion?
Not
Will you come back on Fox? You can come back on Fox and we'll have more time to talk about?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. And
my pleasure.
Good luck with this 9/11 deal.
It's so important. It's about who we are as Americans.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Two congressional Democrats.